Welcome to the Data Leadership Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony J. Algman. Data's everywhere in our businesses, and it takes leadership to make the most of it. We bring you the people, stories, and lessons to help you become a data leader. We partnered with Dataversity to provide listeners with 20% off your first training center purchase with promo code ALGMANDL. Go to dataleadershiptraining.com to learn more. Today on episode 71, we welcome Simon Severino. Simon is an author, CEO of Strategy Sprints, and host of the Strategy Sprints podcast. He helps business owners in software and services run their companies more effectively, which results in sales that soar. As a member of Silicon Valley Blockchain Society, he enables cross-stage capital flows and helps minimize execution risks in technology startups. He's a TEDx speaker, frequent podcast guest, and also writes for Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine about scaling digital businesses. Simon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony. Hello, everybody.
So please take a few minutes and just tell us more about your career leading up to Strategy Sprints. What's your career backstory and how did all of that come together to help you do what you're doing now?
I have been a management consultant all my life. I would be in planes, in executive boardrooms, structuring the problems at hand. Should we enter this product in that market? Should we stay in this market but invent a new product? What should we do? How, when, what will the people say in those areas, internally, externally? How do we launch this thing? And I was doing this, and many things were not working. So in traditional management consulting, you do a lot of analysis and planning, and you create a ton of reports, and then you say, hey, look, here's the plan. But they don't do it. So I had to find a better way, a smarter way. And I started looking for things that were working better. And I found in the tech space, on the product level, there were much better things, like all the agile methodologies were working much better. Design sprints for products, Scrum for software was working much better than this kind of work that I was doing with the executives. So I was like, what if we take what's working on the product level and use it for go-to-market? So what if there is a sprint way of running a company? And it took me a while. It took me like 8 years, 9 years to create those things, but we did in action with the people who run companies, small companies, mid-sized companies. And we tried and tested segmented work. So we did cut the big projects into tasks of 3 hours where you can measure outcomes in 3 hours. We did cut monthly planning into weekly planning, monthly reports into weekly reports. And now we have the strategy sprints method, which solves many of all these problems that I had and many people have.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, I've done a fair amount of management consulting myself, and I've had those same frustrations, right? Where, you know what needs to be done, but the ability to execute on that, and the fact that just like for people, life sometimes gets in the way for these businesses. They know what they're trying to do, but they find it difficult to actually execute on a plan that is, correct and well-reasoned, but they don't know how to adjust that to new information that comes along that journey. And I imagine that with a more agile approach to this, it's not, wouldn't call it even like just strategy, because this is a new way of operating as well. I'm hearing like there's more to this about incorporating new information, new ideas as you're in flight, because that's really what agile is all about. Am I on the right track here?
My inspiration was my own triathlon coach. So I had a coach for my first triathlon, and he says, yeah, this is your training plan. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to eat. This is how you need to sleep. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. But we wouldn't meet once a month in workshops. He would ping me quickly per SMS, and he would say, Simon, you're running too fast. I say, how do you know? Your watch just told me that you are running too fast. You have to run slower and longer. And I go, but that's boring. Yeah, but you have to, because this training zone is forbidden for you. You have only zone 2 and zone 4. I don't want to see you in zone 3. Okay, I'm going to do it. And because he's the coach, I do it. And then 3 days later, he would say, now you are training in the right zones. And it would be immediate, like you are Spider-Man and you are in action and you have your friend and you ask him, should I kick the left door? Should I kick the right door? And they say, give me a second. Then he says, kick the left door. And I thought, hey, this is what entrepreneurs need, especially the small businesses, the solopreneurs.
Yeah.
This is what they need, not months of analysis and you come back with 60 slides about anything. Who cares? I need something right now. Should I do this or should I do that? How do I structure this? Give me a blueprint. I don't want to reinvent the world. Just give me a blueprint. Let me do something half an hour. I show it to you. You give me feedback. And then I do something with it in my world. This is helpful. I can do that. What if I put together my templates and they can tag us anytime on the phone? And so we created the strategy sprints method. It's something where you can tag your coach anytime, wherever you are in action. You go, hey, coach, I can do this, I can do that. What should I do? And then they make a first draft, they get feedback. And then with those numbers, we move forward. And that is now a much more natural way of doing, more appropriate to current times.
It kind of blows my mind because I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm also like kicking myself. I'm like, why haven't I thought of this before? Because I've long said, like, I've built data platforms in my career. That's my thing. Like I build systems to do analytics. I do, data-driven behaviors. I do business intelligence, you name it. Right. And I often have had clients who on the data side, they want to have something like real-time reporting. I'm like, why would you want real-time reporting when you make a decision once a month? And this information is really going to be used once a month to actually drive any activity. You need to kind of align the decision-making process and the pace of information, or the frequency of updates of that information. Those need to be somewhat correlated. They need to be closer together. And what you've just done is the same thing for like management consulting, because in management consulting, we'll spend 3 months on something that needs to guide every day's behavior going forward. That doesn't make any sense. We need to have something that's providing that kind of real-time information, because decisions are happening in real time. You execute on a strategy over years, one day at a time, one moment at a time. And that's where those decisions have to be influenced. In a 3-month-old strategy deck that was put together with a deep dive of information at 3 months ago, that's only going to be very, limited use at best, right? And so that's it sounds to me like what Strategy Sprints has addressed. That's what you're doing that changes everything. Am I on the right track now?
I'm curious how many decisions people take every day. So I am also a CEO right now. I run a global business. And today it's middle of the day for me. And I already had to take 6 decisions. One decision was, do we hire these people or this person or that person? The second decision was, again, a hiring decision. The third one was a CRM decision. Now, these are small decisions, right? But it's half of the day. So during this day, I will have 6 to 10 decisions. And these are just small decisions, a CRM, hiring decision. And so during these decisions, I, of course, go back. I want to take a couple minutes to decide, but I need a real-time information about the bigger things. So I am glad that I have my daily, weekly, monthly reports and our planning system on one real-time dashboard that I see every day and everybody in my team sees every day, because this is how we can take these decisions. Otherwise, it would take me weeks or months to take those decisions. But we said, okay, this CRM costs more than the others, but it has this feature. What are our goals for these months? How do they really contribute to our quarterly sprint numbers? What are the 3 most important numbers? Okay, is this feature vital to get there? Yes. All right, then the cost doesn't matter. We go with that. So it took a couple minutes in the team to decide, and many of those decisions can even be done without me, without the CEO, because we have those clear sprint goals. There are always 90 days goals. They always have 3 metrics. And so everybody in the team can say, should I spend more on this or less on this? They can do their own budgeting for their part of the work. if we have this thing, and only if it's accessible and always real time. Azure is what we say. It needs to be in real time, really current.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on the notion of, can you become data driven to a point where, like you talked about, kind of delegating some of that decision making authority to your team? Can you get to a point where those metrics are such reliable guides of decision making that you can offload some of those decisions entirely? Like, what the answer is because you solved it through an algorithm that spits out the answer. And then you can focus more of your time on those more novel decisions that you haven't encountered before. Do you see that pattern, or is that something that we're still not quite to the point where we can do?
We use 3 habits and 3 strategies to stay on top of that. The 3 habits are daily habit, weekly habit, monthly habit. And so we say every day, how are we spending our time? What will we delegate, automate next? Mm-hmm. That creates the impulse, the signal for what's the next thing to automate. We write an SOP, either it's done by a software or by a person, then we hire somebody and then we hand it over. And everybody does hiring in my team, not just me, because it's the same process for everybody. I did write down how we budget, how we hire, and that's the same thing that my colleagues do. That's why it's a scalable situation. Now, the second thing, the weekly, is give me the marketing numbers, sales numbers, and operations numbers right now. So on a weekly basis, we reflect them, but there is one dashboard with 3 visuals about the marketing numbers, the sales numbers, and the ops numbers, and they are always in real time. We see them. So from time to time, I check when I need to take this decision, CRM or not. We go there, I check, yeah, it contributes to that. Okay, let's go. Oh, it doesn't contribute to it. No, we don't go there. We are not ready to decide that. Let's put it on next week's backlog. Then the monthly habit is, are we doing the right things and are we moving forward in the right pace? So this is not just speed, it's also velocity. So velocity is speed plus direction. It has direction in it because you can run very fast in the wrong direction. And that would be the worst thing you want to have in a marathon, right? That you are the fastest backwards. Yeah. So we think first is, are we moving into the right direction at the right pace? And this is where we do also a quick strategic analysis of alternative behaviors. What else can our clients do if not doing our services and offers? What else can they do? And also, where else can they buy? So competitor analysis, top 3 competitors, quickly checking what are they doing. Do we need to change anything? Do we need to take some of that into consideration or not? Okay, next. That's the monthly habit. And so with these 3 habits, daily, weekly, monthly, we have at least a little bit of an orientation in a situation where outside everything is changing pretty fast. The markets are fast, geopolitical changes fast, liquidity, supply chains, everything really changing in a fast way. So we want to have the couple things that we can control. These are the 3 things. How we react to things, we want to have that quickly. And so the signals of change, we want to have them also very quickly. We want to have the weak signals so that we have enough time to react to it. These are the 3 habits. And then we have 3 strategies. Should we do this project or not? We ask ourselves, will it increase by 25% the frequency of our sales? Yes, no. Will it increase by 25% the price we can charge for the same thing? Yes, no. Will it increase by 25% the conversion rate of our sales? If it doesn't, it's not the direct path to our growth. And if it's not on the direct path, it's a distraction. We won't do it.
How did you determine that 25% is the right number? And is that the right number for every organization, or is that something that's kind of tied to your specific organization?
The number comes together because if you put these 3 things together, plus 25% frequency, plus 25% conversion rate, plus 25% price, they compound to plus 99% revenue. And our goal is every quarter to double revenue. So for when we work with our clients, our promise is, hey, get a sprint coach, we will double revenue in 90 days. Because it takes us around 72 to 85 days to really hit the right acupuncture points in every business. We are very quick at seeing them at the beginning because that's what we do day in and day out. So we see them quickly, then we create a game plan, and then we have to change some stuff, we have to experiment, and then we have to get their whole team aligned. They have to get into the groove. It takes 90 days to do all of that. But in 90 days, we can double revenue. And so that's why the 25%, because they compound together to plus 99.
I'm glad I asked that. That's interesting. And I assume that that's a one-time 90-day opportunity. Like you can't double revenue every 90 days in perpetuity. That probably doesn't do that. But you're able to address some key things that most organizations are missing through your work by like, and I like the idea of that the acupuncture points, like that kind of, you know, or did you say acupuncture or acupressure? I know those are two different things. I don't want to misquote you.
I'm talking. They're similar, but I said acupuncture because it's really finding the point and doing one intervention there. And pressure is similar. It's just milder, but it's also one point, and you do it. At the acupuncture point, to find them in a system, that's the art of consulting, right? You see a consulting and say, that profitability can be raised if we do this. And then you see immediately 4 levers to do that. If you are somebody that does it for 20 years every day, then you just see it. You're a practitioner. So you see a system and you say, oh, profitability 60% should be 72%. Oh, cost positions, too many fixed cost positions. Let's turn half of them into variable costs. Cash flow doesn't look good. You are not raising enough capital here on this side. So these are typical inflection points if you think of a business, right? There is marketing, sales, operations. There is cash coming in, cash going out. There is costs, and there is what's still in-house, the profit. So what stays there at the end. You look at these things and you immediately find the bottlenecks. You say, oh, you shouldn't even increase revenue. Maybe you just have to turn your fixed costs into variable costs. That will increase your profit rate. You have net more profits because you have less costs when there is less work and more costs when is more work. But that's healthy. And so sometimes it's not even the first goal to raise revenue. Sometimes because you want to have a high profitability. That's what makes your business healthy. And to have a higher profitability, you have to work on the cost positions, turning them into variable costs, more work, more costs, less work, less costs. And you have to work on the revenue systems. Revenue systems, plural, because things can change. And so you always want a constant, repeatable, reliable stream of oxygen coming in. Cash is oxygen coming into your system, and you need oxygen, obviously, to survive. Every organism needs that. So you want that to be a steady inflow. And then on the internal side, you want to work on your cash flow management and on your net profitability. So gross margin, operating margin, net margin. You want to play with that, with these 3 acupuncture points until you find the right percentage points. Now you have a resilient, healthy business.
Yeah, I like that you're trying to do something pretty different in the way you're approaching things. But when I hear you talk about this stuff, these are fundamentals of good consulting. And I've long said, like, good consulting comes from understanding the patterns. Great consulting great consulting comes from when you understand what makes this client truly unique. And that's where, like, you start with the patterns. You understand, okay, here are what our baselines are. Here's what we know from all of this experience that we have. What are your unique challenges, and what do we uniquely need to change about this particular client to make them more successful in this kind of industry or circumstance that they find themselves in? And I really think that you're onto something with this, because it aligns, like we talked very early in the conversation, it aligns the cadence of the decision with the flow of data and the flow of information and action all of that comes together in an aligned process and an aligned and thoughtful speed, not just something that's kind of arbitrarily happening. I think it's really compelling how you can help these organizations. I'm guessing that a fair amount of what strategy sprints does for a client organization is it teaches them to see themselves more clearly. Like, I have to believe that's a key part of it, right?
That's a key part of every life, right? Self-awareness, very important. Otherwise, you are doing things that are not you, are not authentic. The worst thing happening right now is when you get sold something like cookie cutter and you feel like, oh my God, again, another person wants to sell me something. That's the worst thing, right? Then that's when you unclick, unsubscribe, delete, etc. So that's the last way you want to communicate. And so what's the antidote? The antidote is really self-awareness, to understand what you stand for. And my TEDx talk was about that. If you're strange, that's your strategic advantage. That's your asset. That awkward moment in a social situation when people go, that's strange. That's your asset. That's your strategic advantage. Keep rolling. Keep with that. That's you. And so play with it. Embrace it. Make it your. I just wrote a book, and there is a. It's called Strategy Sprints, and there is a chapter here. It's called "Your Mess is Your Message." Mm.
You're like peering into my soul. Like it makes me. It's the start of my work day. We're pretty far apart time zone wise, and I'm like, embrace that weirdness is something that I'm going to take with me all day today. And that it really is what makes you unique and special. I mean, it correlates directly to what I was just talking about from like a consulting business standpoint of like, understand that unique, different thing, because it really is what makes your organization special. What makes your organization exist. And you just apply that on a personal level to say, yeah, and that's true of all of us as individuals as well. What that weird piece is that differentiation, is that powerful difference that will make you successful and will make you in the end. And that's really, I think, a powerful parallel to draw, and not, it seems obvious once we talk about it, but I've never really thought about it that way before. So that's really amazing. And so I'm curious, because I feel like the target audience for strategy sprints you're working with, I guess I don't know who you're working with, but like I assume that you're working with at a business strategy level, but I imagine that this could apply at different levels. Who can benefit from strategy sprints, or how do you work with clients in your business too?
Yeah, it ties back to self-awareness. So we are the sprinters. So we are only here for the 0.2% of the business owners of this world who are sprinters. And so what is a sprinter? And it's a minority. and what makes this minority? And because for everybody else, there are enough traditional consultants that are great, and they will do analysis, and they will do workshops, etc. But if you are somebody who likes to build more than to talk in rounds, who really wants to ship stuff, to create something that is not there and is bigger, then you really want a sprint coach, right? You don't want 16 hours of a workshop, and you want to build stuff. So and so you build, and then you want somebody to say, hey, look, this is what I built. Give me feedback before I ship it to our 18,000 people on our email list. Give me feedback before I launch it. Give me feedback on the subject line before I send it. Give me feedback on the call to action. Is the call to action good enough before I launch it? And so for these people who don't want to hang out in workshops 8 hours or read 60 pages of a report about their industry, come on, I'm disrupting my industry. I don't care about my industry. I'm creating the new thing here. There is no report about that. I don't care about benchmarks. Benchmarks are about what everybody else did yesterday. I want to know what I can build right now.
Is that then a focus on the product companies or on I mean, because you talked about software and service organizations we mentioned in your bio. Um, is that something that where you're targeting mostly rapid growth businesses that are at a stage where they're shipping product, or that they're technology companies? I'm just trying to get a feel for like what's that boundary of like, this is who should do this, but then here's who also should like read the book and understand, hey, these are some good things that you could probably apply yourself too. Because I could see a product development team within an organization taking some of this. They may not be able to hire you directly, but they may be able to take some of this and really make a difference in the way they're approaching things, especially if they've been mired in the ways that they've always done stuff, and I think that there's potentially good change in store for them as well.
If they want to discuss also go to market, yes. So this is for people who have go to market responsibility. Okay. Solopreneurs, teams that run consultancies, teams that run agencies, teams that run software building firms. And they want to grow fast. They want to build stuff that's really used, and they want to work in weekly sprints because they want to immediately know, hey, is this working? Should we build more of this or more of this? Is this working? Should we build more of this, more of this? If they like committees and long meetings, they should go somewhere else. But if they like building stuff and getting better at building the right stuff for the right people and making their customers happier, then the sprint is a good method. The book itself, the book has all the templates, checklists, wipe copies, case studies of our last 160 sprints that we did. And so I did share some stuff that is broadly helpful. The book is really helpful for just if you run a business in the online age. This book has the basics of marketing, sales, operations, hiring. There are literally the hiring checklists and blueprints that we use when we hire.
And you've got some great like downloadable tools and stuff on your website as well. That's another thing that in prep for the show, I saw that there's a lot of really cool things that even just looking over them, it teaches you something about things that you could be doing a little bit different, a little bit more clearly. And I'm curious on I see this continuum between like operational strategy and sales strategy, and I don't even know if I want to characterize it that way, but I'm trying to understand how strategy sprints and what your business does compares to what I would consider kind of traditional sales coaching, because we've talked about how it compares to like traditional management consulting, but what about that sales side? Like, as I've seen that, I'm sure many in the audience have been to sales kickoffs, and we get very excited about things, and we get the motivation and some of the techniques and that stuff. But this isn't that. This is something else. How does it compare though in terms of what you're offering out there?
So in the 90 days, the first month is improving operations, how you onboard clients, how you get paid, automating the payment, making it all smooth in the delivery, in the core delivery of what you do. When we've done that, we move to sales. In the sales part, they record their sales calls and they upload them to the sprint coach. And then the sprint coach watches those Zoom recordings and goes, oh, look at their body language at this point. So that's how granular we look at these things. It is a sales training, but it's not talking about sales. They do sales, and then we say, we have to improve your sales script. The beginning, try opening this way. And look, in minute 2 minutes and 17 seconds in, you said this word. Look at his body language. Look what happened there. You lost him. Yeah. You were talking features. When you said the price, you were like ashamed. You said, oh, this is the price, 40,000. What happened with your body language when you said the price? Are you ashamed of the price? So let's go back in rehearsal. Let's go over the script. Tell me the price now in the role play until we get it right. Mm-hmm. And the next time you say it with full confidence. Otherwise, nobody will buy from you if you don't believe in it. So the nitty-gritty, the everyday, when you are a little bit tired in the sales call, when you are when you're just coming from the kitchen and I don't know, you ate too much chili and then it went wrong or whatever. You wanted to walk the dog, but it was raining, and then you go into the sales call. How can you deal with these situations, the real sales problems? So we do some sales trainings in the sprint. We don't call it that way. It's just the everyday feedback they get when they say, "Hey, guy in the chair, help me."
And these are important and useful techniques for any business that wants to have sales, which I imagine is most businesses. And so these are good things because you've already talked and given us insight into some of your values around, like, you don't want to be just trying to sell everything to everybody all the time. That's disingenuous, and that's not, it's not effective either. And so I think that this kind of interactive approach and real coaching, not just one directional, here, go do this, I think is something that will be useful for a lot of folks, especially, you know, even folks that don't really fundamentally consider themselves sales professionals. I think what we're seeing more and more is sales is everybody's responsibility to some extent or another. You know, you could be a technologist, you could be customer support. If you're working with these folks, there's opportunities there to get them closer and happier with your business and more committed to working with you, or there's opportunities to push them away. And that's true when cash is your means of transaction, or it's, you know, even internal to an organization. You have to realize that those customers, those people that you're working with, will walk away from your interaction with an opinion of you. It's up to you whether it's positive or negative, and whether or not they're going to want to call you the next time they have a similar thing to do. And you know, that's, I think sales gets such a bad rap to some extent because of this focus on the dollars, but really bringing your authentic self to something and understanding the impact of the language you choose, or your body language and those nonverbals. You know, maybe now that hopefully the pandemic is starting to reach its long tail at the end of this, we'll get back to meeting in person with people again. Are we going to have to relearn all of our body language? Have we forgotten how to read body language? I'm actually curious. I'm going to ask you that as a question, right? Like, what do you see evolving with some of this as we return back to probably not what it used to be prior to this COVID pandemic, but to something which will hopefully involve more human interpersonal interaction? What are you looking at, and what are you seeing being you know, some important trends that you see coming as we get back into the office, more back into real life again?
But I think we savor those moments more, right? We are more intentional with our words, with our words, but also with our behaviors. Like, for example, I am very aware of how I drink my tea, my coffee. If I use both hands or just one hand, if the temperature, etc. So you can use everyday moments, small moments, to reflect and to have more awareness of the moment, of the here and now. And I think when people meet together again, they will now have much more sensual data points for that. And I think, yeah, they will enjoy it more coming together again.
I know for a while I'm going to enjoy every moment I have in person with anyone doing anything. Like, there's not going to be any truly boring meetings for a while when we fully get back to an office and get back to, you know, meeting with folks, sales calls or whatever. Just the opportunity to have that human interaction again will be so wonderful. I don't know that we're quite there yet, but we're hopefully going to be back there soon. I'm really keeping the fingers crossed on that one. There's one other topic that I had in my prep notes that I love the terminology, and I'm curious to understand the answer. And this is around the tactics to maximize the ROL, or the return on luck. And I think that is such a interesting concept. I want to hear more about it. Can you explain that concept a little bit more?
Yeah, so Jim Collins asked, how is it possible that everybody's giving their best, but some companies, they grow much faster than others? What's going on? And so he started digging, and called it, what's the return on luck? What makes the difference that luck really lands on your desk or on my desk? What do we do differently? And so I continued looking at that because I find the question so intriguing. And really, in our practice, what we see is that if you test 50 hypotheses and you really invalidate them, you have a higher chance that one of these hypotheses is right, and you find the one thing that is your direct path. Because you remember, the strategy sprints method is find your direct path. But how do you find it? By testing 50 different. That's why we have the sprints method, where you cut work in very small parts, and so you quickly ship, and then you know immediately, oh, it's not working. Okay, next hypothesis. The next hypothesis is, we should do LinkedIn. Okay, let's test it 3 hours. One poll, one next activity is one next activity. Oh no, LinkedIn is also not working. All right, let's test the next. And then you find it, oh, the email list is working. Okay, let's keep with our email list. And this is an example. If you test 50 things, you will find one that works, and then you stick to that one. So the return on luck is really the method of testing many hypotheses until you find the one that you cannot invalidate via the numbers, and now you are onto something.
Mm-hmm. You got me thinking about, how many hypotheses I've tried and failed and thought about, like, oh, this isn't working and this isn't working, and some of the ones that worked better than others. It gets me thinking too on, how do you know when to let go of something that's okay, like something that's not great, not exponentially beneficial, but seems to have some sort of benefit, especially when it comes to marketing, because you're never quite sure, but you see traffic, you see some metrics on that. How do you know? How do you set a threshold to say, okay, this just isn't worth the effort anymore, versus, well, it feels like it's helping a little bit, it's not too hard, but at some point you've got to let go of some of these things that are less beneficial?
That's the most important question. And that's the weekly habit. That's the sprint dashboard. You have marketing numbers, sales numbers, ops numbers. The first thing is to say, okay, what's the most important metric? So if to say, does my marketing work or not? What do you want it to do? Mm-hmm. So most of our clients define working marketing as, it started a conversation that this week landed on our calendar. So this person was aware, engaged, and now is on our calendar, is booked to talk to one of us. We take that as the marketing metric, and now you call it number of discovery calls per week. And now every 7 days you will see. So you're running that email newsletter. All right, our average number per discovery calls per week is 15. After that newsletter, it was 4. It's not working. Okay, discard it. Next, let's try events. Oh, we did an event. And okay, what's the number? 19. Oh, 19. This is working. Let's find out if it was the guest speaker or if it was the event per se that people like to hang out. So let's find out more. But now we are onto something. This is how we work in the sprint method. That's why we need 12 weeks, because every week we'll measure those experiments. And this is how you find if something works or not.
Yeah, you kind of get to something that's interesting. You're like, ooh, that number is interesting. And then you can dive in further, capture more data, get more understanding about that area. But I think it kind of fits this like fundamental notion of data quality that we see a lot of the time, is that the data that you're using needs to be able to drive the actions that you care about with that data. And in this case, like you can look across 50 different metrics or 20 different metrics, whatever it is, and say, okay, well, this is now telling us something that's interesting. Now let's dive in deeper and put more energies there, because you can tell if it's interesting or not pretty easily. Why it's interesting then becomes a whole nother challenge.
The only problem with having 20 metrics is you won't check them every week, because they will tire you. So that's why you really need max 9 numbers. And so 3 for marketing, 3 for sales, 3 for ops. Then for your team, it will be fun and energizing and insightful. And they will love these numbers and talk about these numbers all the time and use these numbers. As soon as you have 20, people go, oh, we have a meeting again. Oh, I have to recollect all these numbers. Oh.
I read something once about like core organizational values, it was a similar situation. Like many organizations have a dozen values. And the argument was like, you can have three. You get three values because those are the ones everybody will, that's the number people will memorize, they will talk about, they will understand, they will live by. You start going to, double digits, there's no way. They're just going to hear that as, just marketing and just kind of meaningless. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. How do you advise getting to those numbers? Because you got to start probably with more numbers to evaluate, and then reduce that to something that gets you to those key three. Like, how do you find those key three?
You ask, and everybody needs to tell you. For example, you say our values. So when you ask me, Simon, what are your team values? I have to be able to tell you. Ours are focus, freedom, flow, humble, hungry, happy. So most people can memorize 5 to 9 things.
Yeah.
So that's the absolute maximum. And then sometimes people are tired. Then they will just remember 3 things. If you ask, hey, who are your favorite car companies? They will tell you 5 to 9. If they're tired, they will tell you 3 car companies. So sometimes it's 3. And this is why our dashboards are just 3 things to look at. And when we refine values for teams, max 6, and very simple, 1 word. And you just test it if they are too much by asking, hey, what are the core metrics that you're looking at every week? And if they say, oh, yeah, we have a lot, then, okay, they get a monthly 27 numbers from HubSpot, and they have no clue what these numbers are because they're boring even to them. Well, but if you ask a sprinter, they will say, yeah, that's my marketing number, that's my sales number, that's my ops number right now. And you feel like, oh, this guy really has the number right now. And so this is when you have a working set of numbers. If you ask somebody and they can't recollect, then you have probably too many.
That's great. And I could talk to you for like 2 more hours, and I know you don't have the time, but we're already over time, but that I think is as good a place to end this on as we can be. I mean, Simon, thank you. This has been amazing. Your insight and wisdom in the space is not only helpful and interesting and useful, but it's refreshing. I find like your take on what are kind of classic business challenges is really something unique. So thanks for being on the show and sharing that wisdom with us. And I personally, I can't wait to read this book because I know I'm going to be nodding my head and like trying to apply it wherever I can. So thank you again for that too.
Thank you. And people can download all this, what we were talking about, the daily habit, the dashboard. It's for free on our website, strategysprints.com. It's open source.
Outstanding. And yeah, I've looked at that website. It's fantastic. And there are a lot of great tools. We'll include links to all of those in the show notes, and a lot more information about Simon. Thank you all for joining us today. Go to dataleadershiplessons.com to subscribe and check out past episodes, and accelerate your journey with training at dataleadershiptraining.com. Stay safe during these unusual times and go make an impact.